What's up, Facebook? What's up, Instagram? Just thought I'd go live today. I do apologize to President Trump and the different people of the events going on right now in Washington, D.C. I apologize if that's rude and disrespectful, because I feel like today and tomorrow and this whole operation, once again, should be center focused around President Trump. But I have a lot of people who ask me to go live and to talk about some of the things you've been seeing, as it's created a lot of confusion with a lot of people out there. But as consistent as I can be without being condescending and without being rude to others, this is what happens when you have a nation who does not have a foundation. You let your emotions get in your way, you let your feelings get in your way, and then all of a sudden, everything, you could be someone who was going perfect and then just crumble to the ground, fall off the little loft like Humpty Dumpty, just that quick. Because you let others who have no clue what's going on, you let clickbait, and you let all these hokey pokey people who think they're podcasters influence your emotions and your feelings. And I know that it looks like I'm a podcaster, but I'm not a podcaster. I am a retired veteran who went globally viral on a Facebook video, August 24, 2022, in my pickup truck on the side of the road because I was so mad at friends and family, not Americans, which I have every right to be, but this was friends and family who was questioning me on military regulations and military customs. Not military laws, and we didn't even get that far. Just straight up military regulations and military customs. And once again, data shows that 94% of America are civilians. So 94% are arguing with the very few military personnel who know our military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs. That is sad and tragic of a nation that we have a percentage of veterans who have no clue what's going on right now. Now, the difference in a veteran that doesn't know what's going on right now and a civilian that doesn't know what's going on right now, the difference is when a veteran like me and or my buddies that are watching that are veterans, mainly on Telegram, when we tell other veterans, this is what's going on, here's the laws, here's the orders, here's everything in vote, here's what you missed. When they see that, then here's what comes to question with them. They have to stand at a crossroads where they go, is my oath important or do I violate my oath? Because we all swore in, every veteran that's in a memorial grave right now, and every veteran standing right now, we all swore in under the same Title 10, Section 502. So you can't have one Title 10 without the other Title 10. And everything going on right now that you are witnessing has been invoked by Title 10. And the only person who can invoke Title 10 is the President of the United States of America. Joe Biden hadn't invoked Title 10 anywhere. The only person who has invoked Title 10 anywhere recently is Wartime President Donald John Trump. Anybody who says otherwise is either deep state, ignorant, or just trying to complicate things because they have not read and they cannot comprehend what they're reading. It's that plain and simple. Plain Jane, plain simple. Don't complicate it. Don't make it worse on yourself. Enjoy what you're watching because you are watching world history. You've never seen it before. And please, God, have mercy on us that we don't have to go through this again with all the Nimrod lame brains out there who don't want to simply look at military law, military orders, military regulations, and military customs that are custom to the military. So if you love the military and you claim that, I back our troops and I support our troops, you can't support the troops wholeheartedly and fully if you don't support military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs. Now, we have a lot of people who are in service right now who are woke and they're sissies. And they join the military for benefits, privileges that are just that. Listen to the terminology. Can we make terminology great again? They went in for benefits that are privileges. They shouldn't be priority of service. They are privileges of service. See, I'm what they call a Mustang. I enlisted with a degree. I could have gone straight as an officer, but I enlisted with a degree. That comes with a whole different level of respect with guys, especially on the enlisted side, when you enlist with a degree. And only people who have been in the military understand what that means. But we have too many people part of the military-industrial complex. And if you haven't been paying attention, we're approaching 260 commanders relieved of duty since June 2017. Who was the president again in 2017? Who was the one that everybody visually saw? See, it's because you don't know laws and orders that you can't believe in this little dash right here being an operation, a special operation. That's why people are struggling, because you don't know the laws and orders that are unique laws and orders that make a president a wartime president, which is a whole different set of laws, whole different set of orders. That's why it's important to know a chronological timeline. When President Trump rolled down the escalator, it was 4 days after the Law War Manual was reissued. Just so happened to be reissued and amped up. And then, fast forward to 2016. Special Operations Command. Special Operations Command puts out a brand new unconventional warfare pocket guide for clandestine operations, which are secretive operations. They're not going to be visual to you. They're not going to be, did you see what they did today? Did you see what them Special Forces guys did today? Did you see what the Navy SEALs did today? Did you see what SEAL Team 6 did today? You're not going to see that. You don't need to know that. And if they vocalize that to people, guess who else would find out? What did President Trump tell everybody on the 2016 campaign trail? Never again will we voice to the public what's going on with our military, because if we tell you, guess who else finds out? The enemy. Now, what I'm telling you is not the missions. I'm not telling you where the mountain brigade. I'm not telling you where anybody in infantry, air and missile defense, Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 6, SEAL Team 8, SEAL Team 10. I'm not telling you where they are. I'm not telling you what they're doing. I'm not telling you what tunnels they're in. I'm not telling you where they are. You don't know that part. Those are intricacies of it. But I can show you the broad picture, because it's all in laws and orders. It has to be. By law, there has to be things to show you. But see, if you don't know that terminology, make terminology great again. If you don't know the terminology, it's going to be foreign to you. But just because it's foreign doesn't mean it's not happening. Just because it's foreign doesn't mean it's hogwash. And just because it's foreign to you doesn't mean that it's a conspiracy theory. Might need to get you a mode like this. Military laws and orders are not conspiracy theories. You might need a mode like this. Boy, this is the stuff that fires up a veteran, I'm telling you. A veteran that knows what's going on, this is the stuff that make you run through a brick wall. We have too many people who join the military-industrial complex. And it's so humorous that they made Joe Biden, in his 17-minute speech on his farewell, they made him say the military-industrial complex, and he dropped Eisenhower's name. If you think Joe Biden's real at this point, you need to be slapped 10 ways to Tulsa and back to get you out of whatever stanza you're in. Whatever it is that you're in, stupor, duper, whatever it is, you need to be slapped 10 ways to Tulsa and back. All these people out there saying, that's just him aging. He was already old. He already had gray hair. He already had spots, old age spot. He already had that stuff. And let's just have some fun here. Before I get to my spiel here, I'm not even on my spiel. Let's just have some fun here. Ladies, how many times have you had your man, when you're supposed to go out somewhere, do you want to dress up? You go out on Friday night, you want to go downtown, and you want to get your little wine game on where you can raise your little pinky like they tried to teach old dude in Titanic. You raise your pinky this way, and you sip on your little champagne, and you're highfalutin. You're downtown, and you're, oh yeah, boy, big timing. You go back to your dirty-ass four-wheel drive Toyota Tacoma parked on the side street, not downtown where someone don't see how redneck your ass is. All right, so, yeah, you go downtown, you all dressed up, and you sleep back in that alley whenever no one can see that you get back in that dirty old truck, and you go right back down to Hit Town, right? But no, you go downtown, you're all highfalutin. How many times have you had to tell your man to dress up? How many times have you had to tell a man, hey, you ain't wearing that, we going downtown. Put your good boots on. Why you got your shit kickers on? Get your good boots on. Put your Wranglers on, creased. Put them cowboy creased Wranglers on. Put a nice starched, pressed shirt on, a cinch. Come on, we going downtown. We got to look like we highfalutin. So tell me, what man in his 70s walks in a damn plastic surgeon and says, oh man, I'm 72 years old and I don't like this chin I've had all these years. I'd like you to bust my chin open and saw down my jawbone. I've always had a Chevy Chase chin. It worked for him in the movies, but I don't like it. I want a nutsack chin like Peter Griffin had in Family Guy. Can you bust my chin open and solder that down for me? That's what you say if you think Joe Biden is real. That's what you're saying. Because his chin goes from a Chevy Chase dimple, defined little point right there, to a nutsack, what they call a nutsack, where it's got a point here and a point here and a valley, like the Big Valley, Old Western. All right? So that's what you're saying. And then all of a sudden, this also, he wanted his chin changed, but he also said, and while you're there, Doc, go ahead and put this little detached earlobe. I want that bad boy attached. I've been living all my life. I've had a chin like this. I want a nutsack chin, and I want my detached earlobe attached. That is what you're saying if you think that Joe Biden's real. That's what you're saying. And if you still want to argue that, your friends and family out there, don't talk to them. They are dumb as rocks. Their IQ is questionable. Don't argue with them. Walk away, because I'm telling you, you're gonna lose the IQ and get down on their level and be arguing for days. That's how dumb Americans have gotten. Diddy, Jamie Foxx, Fetterman, Zuckerberg, they all look 100 ways different to Tulsa and back, and people are going to sit there, oh, they're just aging. That's what you want to do to them. But that's not the Christian thing to do. I have to calm I have to do the woo-saw thing. In your mouth, out your nose. In your mouth, out your nose. I'm telling you, man. We got some people in this country. Woo! They wouldn't want me to be president. I would deport your ass just for having low IQ. Your ass would be on the first ship back to whatever your DNA says is your highest percentage. Your ass would be sitting in that country. That's where you'd be if I was a commander-in-chief. If I was the president, you wouldn't want me president. We'd be looking at DNA. Oh, okay, Madagascar. Get your ass over there and make us some more chocolate. Go on. Boo! You'd be gone. Your ass would be grass. Oh, Antarctica. Wow, how'd that happen? Send them on. Write me a postcard. Tell me how the penguins are doing when they're making their roll into the great unknown. Let me know how they're doing. Well, I'm telling you what, we got some lame brains in this nation. And I'm the crazy one for reading thousands and thousands of pages of laws and orders that are there, clearly there. So what we have is a nation, portion of this nation, who don't have a foundation. They don't know how this nation was founded. They don't know anything about their own lineage, for that matter, like I do. And they're not proud of it on top of it. I'm proud of my lineage. I'm proud of it. I look out the window and I think of all the trees I'm looking at. I ride down the road. I visit graves all the time. My great-great-grandfather and different people. They're in the middle of nowhere. And I sit there and think, now what would they think if they were standing here today? I think of stuff like that. And Native Americans always look, they call it the 7th generation. They always look 7 generations out. They live their life today in preparation that 7 generations out will be taken care of. Do you think all them stanky ass liberals that were marching at the Capitol yesterday, I bet their asses smell like Amish ass in August when they're baling hay? Can you just imagine going up to an Amish and smelling their ass in the hot summer under them big old heavy dresses and them old jeans, and they don't shave and all that? Can you imagine taking a whiff of that? Think of all them liberals that were up there marching up there yesterday, all their purple hair and all. They don't shave their armpits. They don't shave their legs. Can you imagine what the smell was of that? Good Lord, have mercy. My God, have mercy on me. You talking about wanting to wear a clothespin on your nose, walking around that. That's the one time you'd think, man, I don't need a mask. I'm going to need a clothespin to go around this thing. I'm going to need me a doggone gas mask to go around. Maybe that's why they put us to the gas chamber in the military, because we got to be around stank-ass liberals who don't know anything about their own nation. I mean, can you really imagine? Really think about this. We're in a nation right now where people are protesting guns. All right. The whole reason they're standing on the good old United States of America turf, the whole reason they're here is because my founders said, you know what? The heck with all this. They started a war, April 19th, 1775, Battle of Lexington and Concord. That's why my book's named The Midnight Rider, because Paul Revere and all those Midnight Riders took a stroll in the wee hours of the morning of April 18th and April 19th. The redcoats are coming, the British are coming, get ready, boys. All right, roll through the town. They started a war without an established military, without military law, without the Declaration of Independence, and without the Constitution. They started a war with nothing on paper that they were fighting for. So this is how we have got to address, to get back somehow the people. But we're going to deal with some of the ramifications, because there's some of these liberals who hate the military. They hate anything heterosexual. They hate anything Anglo-Saxon. They hate anything. They think that just because you're white and a male, that you're some kind of pedophile, rapist, taking their rights away and all this other stuff. They accuse you of things you've never heard of in your life. I mean, we are in some times. But if you're not one of them, then you've got to stand up and stand tall and get tough. Don't be afraid to say something to them. Don't be afraid to call them a name if you have to. Always revert from it, but if you have to, stand your ground and tell them that, hey, I think you need a pedologist to study your IQ because your IQ is dumber than dirt. Sometimes you just have to call a spade a spade. All right, now a lot of people don't like me because, well, I'm straightforward. I'm direct. I'm just like President Trump. I'm direct. I'm straightforward. But what's funny is when it's podcasters out there who claim to be a President Trump supporter, but they're against me. Well, if you're against me, then you're against President Trump, because all I'm doing is replicating the laws and the orders, and I'm keeping my oath as a veteran. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So that means that they're pushing some kind of they're pushing some kind of product, or they're clickbait, and they want you to watch them because they want to monetize their videos. By the way, Facebook, Meta made their big announcement. Oh, we're not going to censor anybody anymore. My pages have been censored from day one. I have not made a single dime on monetization of videos. And I was receiving 60, 70, 80,000 views of video. All right. You can make money on that. Yes. But you have to go in your page on Facebook and click monetization and all that. My page has been censored from day one. So now I didn't go in there and click that anyways. Mine gets notifications that say, okay, your page has been censored for this. And then the more I kept posting, I get notifications, well, now you're at level this of censor. And then, boom, you reach a max level on a business page where it says, if you want to be undone of all this, you got to go back through and delete all these, and you got to put up all kinds of, you got to petition it with Facebook. And I was like, no, I'm not petitioning anything. I'm not going to sit and argue with a fact checker who don't read laws and orders. They read opinions and they have their own, and they all smell like hot ass Amish ass is what it smells like. All right. So I didn't do that, and I wasn't going to monetize them anyway because that's not my mission. So, and I'm not making any money in music because country music is going to crap too. Streaming services have gutted all of the industry. I make $19 a year on royalties. Woo! Rolling into big dough, right? And concerts and shows, they don't book you because they ain't heard of you and they don't follow Billboard anymore. So there's that. So everything is going to crap, as President Trump said. And sometimes it has to get people's attention. Just like TikTok. All it took was one measly day, and think of all these youngsters out there who are panicking because they couldn't have their app for one day. You want to know how much they were in trouble? Every one of you watching, y'all all remember, there's very few people who follow me that are under 35 years old. Every one of you follow me, you remember the time when we didn't have social media. We didn't even have cell phones. All right, we all remember those days. The old landline. I remember when they made the cord that was like 20 feet long, and I didn't like my mom and dad to listen to me on the phone when I was talking to my girlfriend or something. So I would stretch that thing as far as it would go, and then I would shut the door and go in another room, and that thing be stretched out as far as it could go. Landline. Remember those? And then you had that, like when you were a guy, you had to walk up to a girl at school or church or in the mall and ask for their phone number. You had to have the nerve and the guts to walk up to a girl and say, hey, can I get your phone number? Or, you devise a little saying that you were going to say. And then if she gave it to you, then when you got home, you didn't have no cell phone, so you had to wait till you got home. And then when you called, well, you had to hope that she answered the phone. If mama or daddy, mama was always nicer, obviously. But if daddy answered, daddy gave you the 20 questions. Who are you? Where do you go to school? And blah, 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 blah. Remember all that? Man, if we could go back to those days of communication where people, if they wanted to talk about you, they either said it to your face, and if they were talking behind your back, you got your butt tore up. Because I'm telling you right now, there's some people in this nation, I probably will take slack for saying what I'm about to say, and I don't care. Some people in this nation need to be taken out behind the woodshed and be beaten like a rented mule. That's the way some people need to be in this nation. All these people, social media is great when it's great, but it has ruined a lot because drama and propaganda, and the better technology gets, the lazier people get. You have everything right here on Google if you know what to look at, but people choose to let others do the thinking for them. And that's why we look the way we look. Even today on January the 19th, you're seeing things that's never been done before. The wreath laying is always after the swearing in. All right? It's always on January the 20th. After the president swears in, they get in the motorcade, they roll over to Arlington. everything you're witnessing is everything I've been saying from day one. But who's still going over and listening to everybody and anybody just because they have a different opinion? Opinions do not matter right now. Military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs, and how they pair with federal laws and orders that are currently invoked are the only things that matter right now. And I've said it, I'm going to keep saying it again. You got to look at this as a parameter. You got to look at this as an operation, the whole thing. Now, it's not going to stop at 47 from the standpoint of that we're going to go back to the bullcrap we've been in prior to 2016. Don't look at it like that. But you got to look at this whole thing as a strategic plan and strategic operation, because that's exactly what it is. You've seen President Trump do our infamous and famous both spearhead along the way. And you have idiots out there, podcasters, who just want you to click either clickbait and come over and flood, because a lot of you hadn't learned one thing. On social media, the more you comment on a post, the more it makes that post visible to others and others and others, and then all of a sudden that's how people go viral. Well, you don't want the wrong people going viral just because you want to put a comment in there. All right? But you got a lot of these podcasters out there who claim to be patriots now, claim to be President Trump supporters, claim to be Republicans, conservatives, etc. They want to say that this is symbolization the wrong way. No, it's not. We have 8 fingers and 2 thumbs. We can only do so much with our hands. So, no, this is not a bad symbol. That is a spearhead. You've seen President Trump do it. That is your Special Operations Command spearhead. Flip it over. That's exactly what he's doing. Spearhead. Special Operations. Then, when you know that, guess what's there for you to go look at? Laws and orders invoked by the spearhead. President Trump is not operating off of Tinkerbell farts and prairie dust. Alright? That's where a lot of people are struggling. He is the chief executive officer of the executive branch when it's federal, and then he is the commander-in-chief of the military. There's laws that apply to this, and there's laws that apply to that, and then there's only 4 ways that those pair. Only 4. Real simple. You don't need to complicate it. Only 4 ways that the military pairs with federal. Executive orders. Executive. Imagine that. Executive branch. Executive. Chief executive officer of the executive branch writes an executive order. Those have been around since George Washington. All you people out there talking about the corporation and all this, you need to stop that. There's a time to talk about that and a time not to. Executive orders have been around since George Washington. Executive order, national emergency, proclamations, and treaties. That's how they pair with federal. So you need to know the president's playbook and a commander-in-chief's playbook. Then you need to know the military. Well, there's visuals every day for you to look out and see if you were all around this nation, but you get on the radar and you can see what aircraft are moving, but then you got to know what aircraft they are. Then you got to know call signs, and then you got to know what branch they are. There's little things like that. This is a massive operation, and the more that's in your think tank, the more terminology and definitions and glossary that's in your think tank, the better off you're going to be. If you don't know anything about laws and orders, federal or military, you're in trouble. You might want to learn those first. So it's kind of like I saw a while ago, someone tagged my page on some clickbait, some dude that's got 600,000+ followers, and all he is clickbait. All he is he got these fancy little things that catch people. All right. Someone tagged me and said, and they were asking this guy, so are you saying Derek Jonhson, 1776 Nation, is lying? See, this is a problem we have in this nation again. A liar. All right. A liar means that if I told you daffodils grow in the wintertime in Alaska, now that's not a bad lie, right? That's not something that's like deceiving to you in a bad way that's going to hurt you. But if I swore up and down that daffodils grow in Alaska during the wintertime, and I made you think that, and I made you pay, I bet you $50, and you paid me, and then you went and found out that daffodils do not grow in Alaska during the wintertime, you could call me a liar, even though that's not strong. All right, but you can be wrong about certain things out there. That's called an opinion, and then your opinion was wrong. Like if you make a prediction or you say on this date, this is going to happen, and it doesn't happen, then you were just wrong. It doesn't make you a liar. And too many people are hung up on a term that, one, it makes you look ignorant. Two, it makes you look like your vocabulary is lacking. It's kind of like people who use the F-bomb every other word in a sentence. That F in microwave effed up this time, and that F in this, you look uneducated is what you look like. F this and GD that, F this and GD that, all around a paragraph. You look uneducated, it's what you look like. So it's the same thing. You take that, it's the same thing. Doesn't make you a liar just because you're wrong about something. Now, I haven't been wrong about anything because I don't make predictions. And I don't say, oh, on this date, this is going to happen and this. I take what President Trump has put in the laws and orders that is invoked. It's your problem if you don't go read and study those the way they're prescribed. That's where you have the problem. Whoever you are out there, I don't know which one you are and who's listening, but if you are in that position, that's your problem because you don't understand the terminology and how to apply the terminology and how they pair together. That's your problem. And that's why you use the terms like liar and lying and a grifter and all those other things. A grifter. Because I'm showing laws and orders. Wow. Lord help your IQ. Woo, be with you. All right, so all that stuff. And that's why we get to where we get. And we have to set it up like this before I can even get to laws and orders because, once again, what is the president operating with? What is he operating with? He's not just waking up every morning going, well, what did the liberals and Democrats say about me today? And what lawsuit am I in today? That's not what is going on. And out of all the years that most of you have been alive, you've been in propaganda and drama, but you've never seen anything like what you're witnessing right now. But a lot of you are still trying to put that in the propaganda and drama of a 4-year presidency, and you're not looking at the strategic plan and operation that's in place, this dash. Because again, President Trump put that dash there. I didn't have this ball cap made. President Trump put this out April the 2nd, 2023. So we're approaching 2 years that this ball cap's been out. He put this dash on there a year and 7 months before November the 5th, 2024. He's claiming I am 45, 46, and 47. And the whole topic around President Trump and Joe Biden, for the people that thought Joe was real, the whole topic around that was, okay, at the time that they take office, January 20th, 2025, would they have the cognitive abilities to be able to lead this nation? Meaning, will their brain be intact? Will their thinking be sharp? Will their IQ be there? Will they be able to command this? Will they be able to write this? Will they be able to do this and that and this and that and that and that and that? Will they be able to do that? All right. I'm pretty sure putting a dash on a ball cap to market to make people donate for, you can pay $50 during the campaign. You can pay $50 and they send you this ball cap. All right. So I'm pretty sure having people spend money by the droves, I'm pretty sure that if President Trump was not 45, 46, and 47, that would have been a hot topic. That ain't something you just let slide either, just because you're a Republican and conservative and you love President Trump. That's not something you let slide. If you want to play devil's advocate and you want to sit in a neutral seat, then you look at everything. You go, okay, here's a column with President Trump and here's a column with Joe Biden. And so far, when you put these columns side by side, the only thing presidential is in President Trump's column. There's nothing presidential in Joe Biden's column. Nothing. Sure, you go over to executive orders on federalregister.gov and you'll see a bunch of, race this and racial equity this. You don't see any of that being applied. You don't see any of that. But there's not a single military order in his name. Nothing. See, so the stuff that matters, the stuff that's actually going on, the stuff that's actually being invoked, that's actually being implied, that's actually being enforced, what you're seeing with those are all President Trump's. And that's your problem because you don't know the difference. That's whoever you are out there, I don't know. I've got a lot of great followers, but this is to your friends and family who all the messages I've been receiving to do this for, this is for your friends and family. It's your problem because you don't know the difference. It's only your problem. So if you're arguing with your friend, you're arguing with your family because you don't know military customs, it's on you. It's not on your friends, not on your family member. It's on your lack of IQ. It's on your lack of education. And some things you just can't be educated on, like a military custom, like the salutes. Military salutes are a custom. They've been around for years, all right? There's always been a question, do we salute the president? Because most of our presidents have not been veterans before, all right? And this is where people struggle. Because their president, you call a president commander-in-chief. They're two separate roles, two separate duties, two separate laws, two separate obligations, two separate duties, two separate responsibilities. See, this is why people are struggling with what's going on right now, because President Trump has been a true commander-in-chief via the laws and orders. You've had other presidents in the past abuse the laws and the orders, and you can read about the War Powers Resolution of 1973. You can go read about the War Powers Act and see where presidents have abused that. They used their quote-unquote status, but they were in this swamp. They found ways to make residuals through war. They found ways to make kickbacks through war. They found ways to make kickbacks through insurance and stock market information, trader information on the backside. That's where everybody's struggling. It's because you want to pair the president and commander-in-chief always. It's not the case. This is not the case. And that's where laws and orders come in. And it sounds like a broken record, but it's a beautiful broken record once you learn that. All right. So, saluting. There's always been a question. Do we salute the president or not? We do. And we have done that. But there's always been a question there that's been there for years. Should we? Now, we always salute a moving flag. So, sometimes, let's say, obviously the flag is on the front of the beast, the motorcade, when the president rolls by. So, we're going to salute that flag no matter what. All right. So, let's get into some stuff that you've been seeing in just the last few days. Just because it's just fun. All right. Yesterday, January the 18th, you saw a C-32 pick up President Trump. All right. And it flew to D.C. with the call sign Sam 47. This is one of your key visuals that can show you that you've been watching a special operation, strategic plan. You're in a special operation, you're in a military government, military occupation, and continuity of government, continuity of operations. All right. On January the 20th, 2021, by military regulations and military customs, Joe Biden did not receive the traditional flight into D.C. as a president-elect on any Air Force aircraft. Why? If Joe Biden got 81 million votes sitting in his whitey-tighties in his basement, if all that was real like some people think, then why didn't he receive a traditional flight into D.C. on Air Force One? Air Force One, this is what we're going to address. Air Force One, ladies and gentlemen, is not a call sign. This is where people struggle because you don't know terminology and you want to listen to someone just because they deliver it nicer and softer and they're cuter than Derek and blah, 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 blah. And they couldn't be any more wrong than a turd in a coffee mug. Air Force One is when a president can get in a Ford F-150 and you have the best welder in the land weld wings onto it, and you go off a cliff in Colorado and see if that bad boy will fly. And if that Ford F-150, which I wouldn't be in a Ford F-150 anywhere with that kind of circumstance, but still, if that bad boy took off flying and the president was in it, guess what it's called? Air Force One. If the vice president gets on a Brahma bull, all you cowboys, cowgirls out there, if the vice president gets on a Brahma bull, all right, and you strap that VP on there, and then you get somebody to tie on some ultralight wings, all right, and you take that cow over there to North California, and you push that cow off, that Brahma bull, you push her off that mountain, all right, push it, ain't no bull gonna be no female, and I'm making a steer, all right, but you push that bull, off that cliff, right, and that thing starts flying, and guess what it's called? Air Force Two, because it's a vice president. If a president gets in a crop duster down south, and they're flying over and they're spraying all the fields, guess what it's called? Air Force One. If the vice president gets in a crop duster and they take off, they're flying and spraying the fields, guess what it's called? Air Force Two. It don't matter what they're in, what capsule they're in, with wings, whatever it is Air Force One. If the president's on it, Air Force Two. The call sign is the call sign. Completely separate. SAM, Special Air Mission. Every president who's ever flown has flown with a SAM call sign, Special Air Mission, SAM 39. When Jimmy Carter died the other day, when Jimmy died, what did he fly to? They didn't fly up to D.C. with the SAM call sign, weirdly enough, but he flew back to Georgia with the SAM 39 call sign. So a dead president can fly with Sam, but Joe Biden, who got 81 million votes sitting in his whitey-tighties in his basement, has yet to he has not flown, has yet to fly with a Sam call sign. And I'm the crazy one. I'm telling you, it's dumber than dirt, but it's simpler than second grade math. It's all right here. It's all in your head. Terminology, language, verbiage, vernacular, glossary, index, knowledge, education on the subject, education on the topic. Don't complicate it. Don't make it tough. But listen to someone who knows. All right? So we have a dead president who has flown with a SAM call sign recently. We have President Trump, who just got picked up yesterday, January the 18th, 2025, on a C-32, which is typically used for an Air Force Two transport. But President Trump prefers the C-32, the I think that's 767, right? Let's see. C-32. 757. That's right, 757. And that's a choice of his, because that's what Trump Force One is. That's his personal jet, is a 757, which is a C-32 in the Air Force. All right, so it's not too crazy, and it's more cost efficient. President Trump has made that initiative cost efficient. You don't need to be flying around in a big boy aircraft. You don't have to. All right, so there's that. So we've had a dead president and President Trump flying with Sam, but old Joe got 81 million votes sitting in his basement. He can't fly on any aircraft with a presidential call sign whatsoever. And guess who else has been flying with him? As you know, anybody who's watched me, the Department of Defense. Since January 2021 to present day, the Department of Defense are flying with a SAM call sign. Well, that's because of a law and order put in place. All right. Today, January the 19th, 2025, President Trump is at Arlington, the wreath laying ceremony. The wreath laying ceremony is normally after the president swears in on January the 20th. Any January the 20th. After they swear in, they take their oath, and the cannons go off. The 4 cannons, 21 gun salute in the National Capital Region. They go over to Arlington. That's not happening like that. Do I need to just keep reaching over here and just showing you? You're in an operation. And even though that dash technically ends tomorrow, the dash portion, this hadn't ended. It's a special operation. The whole thing is an operation. And that can be proven via the White House Military Office. The White House Military Office is your Air Force One movements and your Air Force Two movements. It's your Marine One movements. All that. And every one of you think you've seen Joe Biden somewhere where they showed, oh, Joe was in California today, and oh, Kamala was down here in Texas today, and blah, 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 blah. You thought you saw that because that's part of the operation. But what proves that is when you go to Google, right now, if you went over to Google and you typed in White House Military Office Trump, enter, the first thing that pops up on search engine optimization is Obama White House Military Office. Why? Why is Obama the last White House military office to pop up? Why? Explain that to me. I know, but why don't you know? The White House, Joe Biden hasn't had a White House military office. There hasn't been a director in the White House military office since January 2022. Now, some people would say, well, at least that showed a year's worth there. No. Because you got to know what was in place. You got to know what was invoked. You got to know the laws and the orders that were invoked. That's where people are struggling. You want to be a President Trump supporter. You want to be a military supporter, but you don't know any of the playbook that they're operating with. But we have people who are football fans that don't know anything about X's and O's. They're the Monday morning quarterback. Oh, they should have passed. He should have passed that ball. On 4th and 1 on the goal line, he should have ran the ball. Why didn't they pass it? Monday morning quarterbacks, and there's always going to be those for whatever reason. And Monday morning quarterbacks are not for me. They're not for me at all. I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to try to help you. Monday morning quarterbacks are typically narcissists. They're typically narcissists because they want to be it their way, that all about them, and they don't want to hear it the way that, well, this is the neutral seat. If Joe got 81 million votes and his whitey tighties in 2020, then how come there were more registered voters in 2024 and President Trump only has 78 million popular vote? How did Joe have 81 million popular vote? Make that make sense. There's more registered voters this past year than anywhere in history, and President Trump's popular vote count is right at 78 million. But Joe got more votes in U.S. history sitting in his whitey tighties in his basement, had 4 cars pull up, had 4 Priuses out there in the COVID years, peeping out the window, had it cracked just a little with their mask on, listening to the future president that got the most votes in U.S. history with 81 million votes. But we have more registered voters in 2024 than 2020, and President Trump's vote count is 78 million. And I'm the dumb one. I'm the conspiracy theorist. Boy, I'm telling you. Some people need to be put in a boxing ring like Patrick Swayze. Real life, Patrick Swayze's mother said that you would have thought him playing high school football would have canceled out the fact that he did ballet, but all the guys picked on him. Well, he went to his high school football coach and he asked to meet every single guy in the boxing ring that made fun of him for doing ballet. and his dear sweet little mother, little tiny lady, on a documentary said, I think that took care of that problem. We need that to happen. We need that to happen. We need people to be taken out behind the woodshed again and beaten like a rented mule if they want to act like fools in this nation. They're the very people who will get in trouble because they follow propaganda or they follow drama. They follow David Koresh. They follow Jim Jones. They get that Kool-Aid, and oh, that Kool-Aid looks good. And there's people like me who may not look the part, say the part, talk the part the way you want to hear it, but we're the very ones that can save you from the wolf. But oh no, go right on to the wolf because they look better, they talk better, and whatever it is. They got more followers and all this other stuff, or it don't sound popular, it don't sound mainstream. Oh, go right on ahead, you Fox News people. Go right on ahead. Fox News don't tell you anything. Fox News is like watching a chihuahua dry hump your liberal aunt's leg. All right? So that it ain't doing anything. Fox News don't tell you anything. They don't teach you anything. They don't teach you how to, and it's not teaching how to think, but they don't give you the laws and the orders. They do not provide the tools for you. OAN doesn't. Newsmax doesn't. It's all talk. It's all talk. My God, have mercy. How do we get out of this? It's frustrating because I don't like talking like this. But you have to talk like this to get people's attention and then go, here's the law, and then blah, 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 surface talk, have a little joke here and there, and then here's another law. You have to get people's attention somehow. The other thing about today is President Trump, it's January the 19th. It don't matter until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow. If President Trump was a former president, he was not a veteran before, and becoming president does not exempt you to saluting anything. So if President Trump was a former president, him standing there today at Arlington National Cemetery saluting is consistent with May. This past May, he was at some races. Right? I can't Formula One or whatever it was. One of the, I think maybe a NASCAR race. I can't remember what races it were. I didn't watch them, but I saw he was saluting. If President Trump was a former president, he cannot be saluting. Becoming president before does not exempt you to salute whatsoever. And even though he's been elected November the 5th, 2024, if he was a former president, does not exempt him to salute today if he was a former president. That's why today is so important. They're showing you everything backwards. Everything is not customary to what you've ever seen. They're showing you who is your 45, 46, and 47th president. Constitutional president, wartime president. Let's do this again. Constitutional president, wartime president. It all matters of what laws and orders have been invoked. All right, now, I see podcasters out there saying that everything being moved into the Capitol building and this, that, and other is because it's a security issue. If it was a security issue, he wouldn't be out at Arlington today. Man. Everything is a part of the strategic operation. Everything. And there's only certain people who know, and then there's your secret military. And in 2017, they told you that there were 60,000 secret military. What is Newsweek telling everybody that there's 60,000 military secretive that are in operations? They told you. In March 2020, you saw me recently post about the general of the Northern Command. President Trump invoking a general just in case, blah, 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 blah. No. You witnessed this. That was March 23rd. Guess what took place March 27th? 1 million reserve components were federalized to active duty. On March 23rd, this article showed you that a general was being put in command of the Northern Command. You know what the Northern Command does? The Northern Command is in charge of all of your JEEP, your Joint Emergency Evacuation Plan. Continuity of operations, continuity of government. I don't need any more validation, but if this was about me being right, if I wanted to be a pompous ass for a day, if I wanted to be the guy walking around a little high up like this and put a little feather in my cap, I have every bit of validation, every bit of validity to do so. Everything is in a chronological order. That's why my book's a #1 bestseller. Part 2 is already sold. I think we're over 1,000 copies in just, 11 days. Those are pre-orders. I'm waiting until tomorrow to get the actual pictures of tomorrow to put in there as the final of that. And then Midnight Rider Part 3 will be all of 2025 to 2028. But it's a chronological order of the laws and the orders in vote. I know people get tired of hearing it. Laws and orders, laws and orders, laws and orders. But President Trump tells you all the time, we're a nation of laws and orders. I will restore laws and orders. Restore don't mean that, oh, they ain't been enforced all these years. Restore means they went away. But I have the proof and the facts via, hit that drum roll again, laws and orders that President Trump used the writ of habeas corpus, the suspension clause to suspend the Constitution. They told you in March that a general was being put into place of the Northern Command, which is your evacuation, continuity of operations, and then 4 days later, 1 million reserve components were federalized to active duty. All right, and then a little over a month after that, President Trump gave a direct order from a commander-in-chief to his Secretary of Defense, direct order that he has equal authority to federalize the selective reserve to active duty. And what was President Trump doing naming a new Secretary of Defense after he lost the 2020 election? That makes a lot of sense. Oh, let me just hire and bring in and nominate a new Secretary of Defense, even though I just lost the 2020 election. That makes a lot of freaking sense. See, this is why people struggle, is because you don't want to apply what actually took place, or you don't know what took place in a chronological order. And why that wouldn't make sense. If you got beat in an election, there would be no need to put in the Secretary of Defense a new one into place. That makes absolutely zero sense. But it makes perfect sense when you know the chronological order of laws and orders and vote, that all of a sudden suspended the Constitution and, oh, we have a rebellion or invasion of public safety that requires the president to suspend the Constitution and invoke the military. And that's why I pulled up Joint Publication 3-57 that we're going to read. And then also tying that in, these midterm rallies, ladies and gentlemen, there's no such thing as a midterm rally. No such thing. All these rallies that President Trump had in 2021, 2022, and 2023 would be a violation of his own executive order 13848 with a national emergency election interference. If Joe Biden was president, it don't matter if Joe was dumber than Forrest Gump. It don't matter if Joe lost all cognitive abilities, all cognitive skills. It don't matter if he was the dumbest person you've ever seen in your life, even dumber than Dumb and Dumber, and Ace Ventura and all these idiot movies, right? Derek Zoolander and all these people. It don't matter if he was the dumbest thing you've ever seen in your life. If he was president, then he would be president. And you would have to be a neutral seat and go, well, I don't like him. He's stupid. He's ignorant. He's an imbecile. He's a crook. he's a fraud, whatever you want to call him, it would not matter. If he was elected president, then you would have to sit in a neutral seat and wait it out until either re-election and or if there were impeachment process established that impeached him. President Trump would have been violating his own federal law that he signed and declared a national emergency. There's no such thing as a midterm rally. There's no such thing. We have rules and laws, the Federal Election Commission. We have a Federal Election Committee with laws, rules, regulations of what and who can when they're campaigning and whatnot. It's the same thing as all the liberals out there calling President Trump a felon. If I came to you and I said, hey liberal, hey libtard nation, hey look, I'm a staunch Republican, I'm a staunch conservative, I'm a staunch patriot, retired veteran, and cowboy and country boy, and I'm a deer hunter and this. I'm everything you ain't, and I'm everything you don't like. But I got a way you can get rid of President Trump. If we're playing devil's advocate, we're having fun here. I say, I got a way. Look, watch. You're trying to take him to civil court over a hooker that you can't prove. You're just trying to spread all kinds of lies and propaganda and, he was with a hooker and blah, blah, and her name's Stormy and yada, 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 and one's horse face and all this other, No, whoa. You're going about this the wrong way. Look at this, liberals. Look at here. Little thing called 18 United States Code. It's actually called Criminal Procedures and Federal Law. So federal, meaning like on the presidential level, it says right here, 18 United States Code. This is the whole codification for federal law. And look, President Trump, he's met with 12 foreign leaders 13 different times in 6 months. That would be a violation of the 18 United States Code, Section 953. There's an 18 U.S. Code. That would be a violation of the Logan Act. You know who used the Logan Act on 3-star General Michael Flynn? It would be your vice president at the time, Biden. He's the one that went to Obama and said, hey, sir, there's this 18 United States Code over here. It's called Private Correspondence with a Foreign Leader. We can use that on him and smear him and destroy him, and we can cover up what we've been doing, and we can destroy this general, because Americans love the military. They love them some military, but they don't know anything about military law, military orders, military regulations, military customs, federal laws, federal orders, federal anything. They'll believe it hook, line, and sinker. We'll put him through the mill. We'll put him through the ringer. We'll put him on world TV. When everybody will know who he is, we'll smear him here. We'll skate right off into the sunset, and Americans will never know it. 18 U.S. Code, sir. Right here. 18 United States Code, Section 953, the Logan Act. Private correspondence with a foreign leader. If Joe Biden was in charge, and if President Trump was a former president, the liberals, Democrats, could have invoked the 18 United States Code, the Logan Act, and the 25th Amendment to ban President Trump from ever serving again. All right, liberals, which one is it? You want a hooker named Stormy in a civil court? Or do you want to go to federal court and invoke federal law, federal crime, federal procedure, and no Republican, not a single one of us, not a single conservative patriot can say that President Trump did not meet with these foreign leaders, because he most certainly did, and he met them at Mar-a-Lago and Trump Tower, which is a private establishment. Which one would you want, libtards? I think I'll go with the hooker named Stormy. This is how idiotic and stupid simple this is. This is how idiotic, stupid, simple that people are making complicated, that proves that you're witnessing world history. You're witnessing a special operation. It's a special operation with invoked laws and orders that outline what's going on from a 40,000-foot view. You're not going to know every intricate mission that the SEAL team did and every intricate mission until they get to tell their story down the road of what they did, how they participated, and they get to tell their story. Those men and women get to tell their story. They get to tell their part. They get to write their books. They get to write whatever it is, or start a page, or start a podcast. Those people, they'll get their time when the time is right. But right now is your time to know what's going on. And stop going over to clickbait, and stop going over to people who look better, sound better, talk better, and don't know anything and don't know better. So, midterm rallies, no such thing. Those were proclamations. What are the 4 ways that military pairs with federal? Executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, and treaties. They all require the president's declaration and or signature. President Trump issued 11 executive orders with 11 national emergencies. Joe Biden continued 11 executive orders with 11 national emergencies 2 years in a row. And he continued 8 national emergencies with 8 executive orders 4 years in a row. Why? 3 of those make 0 sense. Why Joe Biden, if he were real and if he were president, 3 of those make absolutely polar opposite of what he stands for, his party stands for, and the crimes that were committed by Joe in his life and all the Democrats. They make 0 freaking sense. Why Joe Biden, if he were real, to continue. They made 0 sense. Executive Order 13848, election interference with the national emergency. Election interference don't mean just at the ballot box. It means lawfare, all the stuff with the hookers and the this and the that. Executive Order 13818 with the national emergency, human rights abuse. And Executive Order 13959, which was after the 2020 election. Hilariously, it was November the 12th, 2020 when it was signed. It went into effect January the 11th, 2021, as prescribed in the order. It is the very executive order that froze all of the assets of anybody who was funding the People's Republic of China, which is the Chinese Communist military. All of a sudden, you saw GameStop get hammered. You saw Bezos step down from Amazon. You saw Zuckerberg start dumping stocks, $25 million a day in stocks. You saw Bill Gates and his wife announce divorce. You saw Warren Buffett leave the Bill Gates Foundation, all immediately after that executive order went into place. And also 2,500 CEOs from Fortune 500 companies stepped down and or were fired in 2021 alone. That's what you witnessed. And Joe Biden would continue that? See, you don't know much about Joe Biden, the real Joe Biden, if you want to argue that. He's always had his hands in the cookie jar of China. He's always had his hands there. And if you want to argue that, then you just are showing your IQ. You're also showing your intellect on the topic and the subject matter. And you're just taking up for a crook because you either want to argue, you want to be right about something, and all of the above and everything else that fits in that, you're wrong as wrong can get. So no such thing as no such thing as midterm rallies. Those are proclamations. Every time President Trump said something, now some of the rallies, quote unquote, sounded a lot the same. But as you move forward, they had to have them because they were proclamations. Every time he said something, he would say something in there like a code, like a nugget, right? Let me pull one out the hat. November the 15th, when he was announcing his candidacy for 2024, November the 15th, 2022, he goes, "We're going through what I call the pause right now." The pause. P-A-U-S-E. Pause. It's an acronym from the SEC.gov. Public Alert on Registered Soliciting Entities. The SEC.gov. SEC has been hammering Goldman and Sachs. They've been hammering J.P. Morgan. They've been hammering all these companies. Wells Fargo, you name it. Hammering, meaning multiple big fines. They've been through all the crypto and the XRP lawsuits, the Ripple, etc., etc., etc. They've been going through all that. going through what I call the pause right now. And that's also the speech where old military dude heard it. He said, and pretty soon we're going to put our beautiful flag on the surface of Mars. Military Auxiliary Radio System. All right, now it don't matter that it didn't happen immediately after. That's where a lot of people are struggling because you want to see things right now, right now, right now, right now, right now. Well, it didn't happen then. It ain't happened, so I don't believe it. That's a bunch of hogwash. Because it don't happen on your clock. And when it happens, see though, what we're trying to get to you is especially if you're a patriot, if you're a podcaster, especially if you're a podcaster, what we're trying to get you to do is this, is be patient and understand the process. Understand this is an operation. It don't work on your clock. It don't work on your time. It don't work on your schedule. But see, what happens is you might be a good person and you might have a good heart and you might have good motives. But when you go speak something like that, and then when it happens not on your watch, not on your time, not on your schedule, and you lose people, you lose followers, guess what? It's your problem. It's your fault. Because you didn't have patience. And you look like that you don't know what's going on because you don't. You just want a face and you want a name. That's why I quit going on certain shows. I quit going on. I don't need any shows, first of all. All you need out there, ladies, you don't need multiple shows. You don't even need me after you know what to look for. Now, you might like to listen to me because that's all I talk about are laws and orders. But you don't need multiple podcasts. You don't need to sit and waste your time all day listening to hear something different. You don't need that. That's where your feelings and your emotions are going to get in the way and get you in trouble. What you need is the playbook that President Trump and the military are operating with. That's all you need. So I'm going to read something right here. We're going to read this first. All right. Title 10. Every veteran listening, what did we do? When we raise our right hand, I, your name, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. Listen to the words of that. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. True faith. Faith, first off, is a very powerful word. And then true mixed with faith. True faith. That means you need to know laws and orders like the back of your eyelids. That means you need to know military laws, military orders, military customs, military regulations, Department of Defense regulations, your branch regulations, and even just for the fun of it, if you can, squeeze it in. If you're in the Army, know a little bit about the Marine Corps, know a little bit about the Air Force, know a little bit about the Space Force, the Coast Guard, the Navy. If you're in the Navy, vice versa. If you're in the Air Force, vice versa. Know a little bit about everything. How the National Guard operate, how the reserve components operate. True faith and allegiance to the same. The same, meaning support and defend. You can't defend something if you don't support it. All right, so there's that. So now watch this. Every veteran, we raise our right hand to Title 10, Section 502. This is Title 10, Section 254. Proclamation to disperse. Whenever the President considers it necessary to use militia or the armed forces under this chapter, he shall, by proclamation, immediately order the insurgents to disperse and retire peacefully to their abodes within a limited time. So see, just because you don't know who the enemy is, and because you don't know much about subterranean warfare, you don't know much about tunnel and sewer warfare and all that, you're not supposed to. If you're not military, and if you're not, intrigued in that, you're not going to know about it. So all of these speeches were proclamations. And it doesn't matter if your ears didn't need to hear it, other ears did. But your ears heard it whether you knew what it was or not. Your ears heard it. So down the road when they say, well, we did this and we cleaned this out and we did this and we did this operation here and that, and this, if you have some idiot like a liberal who wants to get out in the street or protest or yell or scream or whatever and look like a fool, you didn't tell us this is unconstitutional, I did too, right here. Proclamation. This speech right here, on this date right here, listen to it. And it goes back to, if you don't know the terminology, You don't know the language, the verbiage, vernacular, that's your problem. It's your problem. Can you know it? Yes, you most certainly can. Do you want to know it is the question. All right, so can you? Yes. Do you want to? So it don't matter if you didn't hear it. It ain't my problem, ain't his problem, ain't nobody's problem but your own. All right. Now, the article I just put up earlier, it said that the National Guard is wearing a certain patch to differentiate between National Guard and the police. All right, first off, what are the 5150 popos doing wearing fatigues that look like military? All right, so there's that. All right. And in the article, if you read it all the way through, the Army colonel actually sounds a little woke because it says something about, it's ABC, by the way. It says, we know it's a long-standing tradition that the military don't get involved with civilian. That's where everybody struggles. That's where I've combated a lot of fools out there. And there was a particular person I was on a podcast with 2.5, almost 3 years ago, early out the gate. They wanted to argue me. They were Marine Corps, and they thought because they're Marine Corps, look, Marine Corps are the most elite out of the regular forces, all right? Outside of your Navy SEALs, your Special Forces, etc. But Marine Corps are hardcore. They're awesome. If everybody would love the Marine Corps, like their rules, their regulations, their customs, if everybody in the military, especially every branch, would love like the Marine Corps does, we'd be a whole different world. All right. But there's a few who occasionally, no matter what it is, every branch has a few that trip up. They're full metal jacket, as the saying is. They don't know what they're talking about, and they don't need to be out there on the podcast or anything like that. Do they love their Marine Corps? Do they love their Army? Do they love their Navy? Do they love their Air Force, Space Force, Coast Guard? Yes. But do they need to be on the podcast? Some of them, no. All right. Not until they can take all this as a 40,000 foot view and multiple laws and orders like I know and multiple layers of it. Until you know all of the layers, you're going to trip up. That's why my grandpa always told me, when I was learning guitar, my grandpa told me, he said, son, don't ever brag about playing guitar on any capacity. Don't even say you can strum a guitar. Don't even say you know a few chords. If someone asks you to play your music, play your guitar, you play it, you play your music. You don't say anything about the music. You don't say anything about the guitar. You don't say anything. Because there's always somebody in the room who can pick up that guitar and work that guitar over and put you back in that corner if you're a bragger. All right? So there's a lot of veterans out there that need to be loved. That's fine. But there's a lot that don't know the intricacies and the layers of everything chronologically in place right now. And the other question is, can they deliver that? Can they retain all that and deliver it? Not many can. All right? Not many can. There's been senators of 36 years now. This is what the point of this whole operation is. There was a senator not long ago, 36 years, that said he had never heard of a Presidential Emergency Action Document. A PED, that's what it's short for, PED. All right, Presidential Emergency Action Document. A PED is what expands the powers of the president to remain in power. That was established under Eisenhower. All right, it's a continuity of operations, a continuity of government. It expands the power. It's a package put together by the Department of Justice, nonetheless, of, here we go, executive orders, proclamations, national emergencies, all together in a bundle where the president, all he has to do is pre-sign them and then take them to the Congress. They don't have to wait till crap hits the fan or something happens and go, oh, write this executive order. Hey, Susie, write this. Hey, Tom, go do this. No, it's already pre-planned. That's what you've been witnessing. All right, now, the military can most certainly operate with civilian. And that article makes it sound like that, oh, no, you can't. Oh, yes, you can. Oh, yes, they can. And this is where people struggle because they want to talk about the Insurrection Act and they want to talk about the Posse Comitatus. All right? You got to know the intricacies, the slight variances, the slight differences in what you're listening to. Now, I'm going to read it. Whether you want to listen, you got to go back and listen to it. All right, this is Joint Publication 3-57 called Civil-Military Operations, put out July 9th, 2018. Now listen to this, is where terminology matters. Per the Posse Comitatus Act and DOD regulations, the United States is generally prohibited from employing Title 10 United States Code Department of Defense forces to provide direct military involvement to enforce the law of the United States unless... You remember your English teachers in high school, especially if you're over 40? They were hardcore, boy. English teachers were hardcore. Woo, woo! They were strict. I feel bad for these kids today. No wonder people don't know what's going on, because they don't have a strict English teacher, English professor. The key word in that whole sentence, it just happened. Now let's do it again. Per the Posse Comitatus Act and Department of Defense regulations, the United States is generally prohibited. Generally prohibited, meaning from employing Title 10 United States Code Department of Defense forces to provide direct, not indirect, direct military involvement to enforce the law of the United States unless... Picture I'm in a canyon somewhere and it's like still going, unless expressly authorized by the Constitution or Congress. Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550, put into place December the 20th, 2019, the last amended section of Title 50, War and National Defense Booklet, Chapter 33, your War Powers Act of 1973, Section 1550. December the 20th, 2019, who was the freaking president? This is Congress. This is Congress putting this in. This wasn't just the president. This Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550 is the Congress. What did Joint Publication 3-57 just say? Per the Posse Comitatus Act and DOD regulations, that's the Department of Defense, the U.S., the United States, is generally prohibited from employing Title 10, which is presidential United States Code, DOD forces to provide direct military, which means involvement to what? Civilians, all right, to enforce the law of the U.S. unless expressly authorized by the Constitution or Congress. Sometimes being a smartass works because it's what gets people's attention. Because if you want to argue with that, you want to argue with military and federal joint publication and now congressional order put into place, then you are either dumb as a box of rocks. Sorry, you are. You're ignorant because you don't know what's going on, and that's okay. You can be educated, but are you willing to be educated? Are you willing to stand down and listen? Listen, Linda. Remember the little Spanish kid on the little video? Listen, Linda. Linda, listen. Linda, listen. Well, are you going to listen? 3, like I said earlier, if I was president, I would deport you. Until you take a test and you appreciate the military orders, laws, regulations, customs, and how they pair with federal, and have the basic core understanding, core values of the 3 branches of government and how the checks and balances are supposed to work. Not too much federal, not too much state, checks and balances. We the people are the government. Until you appreciated that, your ass would be out of here if I was president. You'd be gone. I wouldn't have compassion for you. Because if you don't have simple understanding, and if you're all distraught, you're confused, you're upset, you're bitter, you're angry, you're sad, well, there's only one to make you glad. All right? It's to know what the president and they are operating with. And all of these operations are to make you happy no matter who you are. Gay, straight, Buddhist, atheist, interracial, this racial, that racial, chop your wiener off, whatever you are out there, you can do those things. You ain't lost no rights. You actually are gaining more rights by people like me who knows what's going on, and people like me who are in the background fighting, and people like all the other secret military who are doing the fighting. Don't care about what your lifestyle is, who you like, who you love, who you want to marry, do you want to chop your yin-yang off or not. Nobody cares about that stuff. But it's not going into federal law, and it's not going to be up for interpretation with federal anymore, because that's what gets people in arguments and in all this bullcrap when none of it should have been there in the first place. None of it. That's what these evil people did. They got everybody fighting against their own core values. Our core values in America are race, are religion, is patriotism. And what did these swamp people do? They got everybody fighting against the core values about things that you're never going to change. If someone's gay and Buddhist and they're gay and Buddhist and happy, they're not changing no matter what you say to them, no matter how much you yell to them, scream to them, shake them, choke them, slap them. They're not going to change. But see, your lifestyle, you can't have your lifestyle without someone that thinks like me. Someone that knows what the enemy looks like, what the wolf looks like, and when the wolf is on your door about to devour you. You can't have your lifestyle without that kind of mindset. You can't have it. And when it gets into laws and orders, when you put personal matters into laws and orders, then we get into trouble because everybody has an opinion, everybody has a different thought, everybody has a different religion, everybody has a different belief, no one's on. It's a Build-A-Bear, grab and go. It's like pick a straw. No one's going to be on the same page with that. So you leave that out of federal. You don't even put that in state level. You shouldn't have it in state level. None of this stuff should be at any law and order, your lifestyle or anything. We have a federal government for a reason. They are to represent the states on a federal. What do we need on a federal? If you live in a state that don't apply to you, well, you might need to think about moving. Now, if it's your home state, you've been there 67 years, you don't want to go nowhere, well, it depends on, is it life or death? What's bothering you? Is it life or death? If it ain't, then shut up, suck it up, buttercup, move on with your life. Don't worry about certain things that don't affect you on a daily basis. All right, but what we got to in this nation, all this Roe versus Wade bullcrap on the federal, all that does is create civil disturbance, civil unrest, civil war. That's all it does. But, again, we let all the wrong people get in all the wrong places. Remember Johnny Lee? Looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love in too many faces. Remember that song? Well, apply that to take love out of it and look at what we've put in the federal, look what we put in the state, look at all the crap we got in places that don't need to be there, and it created all this. It's all it does all day long. And nobody's happy. Everybody's always arguing and bickering and fussing over stuff, and then you go home at night, you sleep in your bed, right, in your nest, in the comfort of your place, not with your neighbor who believes something completely different than you. So why are you arguing about it at the fence line or down at the town hall when some of these things don't need to be there in the first place? So, joint publication 3-57. You come over to section 1550. All right, we're going to read it. Making sure my internet's holding up. It's saying it ain't, but maybe it will. Not later than 180 days after December the 20th, 2019, and every 180 days thereafter, the President shall submit to Congressional Defense Committees a report on the use of regular and irregular forces. Basically, the involvement of military of any foreign country or government when such forces are engaged in hostilities or in situations where imminent involvement
in hostilities is clearly indicated by the circumstances during the preceding 180-day period. So it's giving you a command right there. 180 days, the first 180 days. The first 180 days after December the 20th, 2019, this is what took place. March the 2nd, Defense Production Act was amended, extended to September the 30th, 2025. March 13th, Proclamation 9994, National Emergency, President Trump. March 23rd, the General. You saw the comment about the General being put into place of Northern Command, General O'Shaughnessy. Okay? I think that's how you say his name. All right? But General. March 27th, up to 1 million reserve components federalized to active duty. The only person who can federalize the National Guard, the reserve components to active duty is the President. That's Title 10, Sections 12302, 12301, 12304, and 12406. Title 10, there's Title 10 again. Executive Order 13912, March 27, 2020, invoked Title 10, Section 12302. On April the 30th, same 180 days, the first 180 days, Executive Order 13919, President Trump directed the Secretary of Defense equal authority to federalize the Selective Reserve. That invoked Title 10, Section 12304. Those are still active. This is why stuff gets people in trouble. Over on X, on old Twitter, community notes. They're kind of like fact checkers on Facebook. It's false. I put a post up the other day. It said Proclamation 9994 from March 13th was terminated. Therefore, Executive Order 13912 and 13919 expired. No, they did not. That's why President Trump put the national emergency separate from an executive order. That's why they're on separate dates. No, they did not expire, and that's the wrong terminology for it. They don't expire. Executive orders, when they're written, they don't expire. There's no such thing. They don't expire. They either have a new executive order that writes and revokes that completely, but it's forever filed that it happened, but there's either a new order or Congress says it's unconstitutional and Congress challenges it and revokes it. But no, they don't expire. That's why, look, I don't care what you think about Elon. I have my thoughts. Everybody has their thoughts and opinions. I know what I know, and you can know what you think you know, but it don't matter. That's where we get in trouble in this nation. Fact checkers and all this other stuff, when they're not reading the laws and orders in place, they don't expire. It didn't expire. They're still invoked. The only military orders in place right now, and the National Guard are out of their state jurisdictions every day. The only Executive Order 13912 and Executive Order 13919. Executive Order 13912 that invoked Title 10, Section 12302, and Executive Order 13919 that invoked Title 10, Section 12304. There's your Title 10. And what did we just see right here in joint publication again? Title 10, employing Title 10. All right, that was your first 180 days. Also in the first 180 days, a separate mission was launched, but still part of President Trump's Executive Order 13784. All right, your opioids, you have your opioids combating, and you have your also transnational crimes. President Trump and the Southern Command launched the counter-narcotics operation April the 1st, but not April Fools, April the 1st, 2020. Western Hemisphere. Why are articles all the way up to 2025, mainstream articles talking about the Western Hemisphere? You know where that word is found? Executive Order 13919 with the invoking of Title 10, Section 12304. Talks about the Western Hemisphere. All right, it's all there. All right, so that was your first 180 days. In the second 180 days, President Trump ended NAFTA. All right, he established USMCA, your United States, Canadian, Mexican Agreement. Also, he established the Abraham Accords, peace in the Middle East. Also, you had all the other executive orders, but we're talking about more military base right here. All right, Executive Order 13961 and 13963. Executive Order 13961 is your continuity of operations, your federal mission resilience strategy. Continuity of operations in the executive branch. And here's this article back in the first 180 days about the Northern Command General being put into place, who is the commander of your joint emergency evacuation plans. And you just saw an article put out just a few days ago that Idaho's National Guard are being deployed to Washington, D.C. for a year for the JEEP program. JEEP, Joint Emergency Evacuation Plan. Now it tells you it's a recurring mission, but I have proof that the continuity of operations was invoked. Because you're reading it. You're hearing it. Executive Order 13961, President Trump, December the 7th, 2020. The Federal Mission Resilience Strategy. It's the resilience strategy. It's the continuity of operations for the executive branch. Evacuation of the executive branch. January the 15th, 2021. Reconstitution Guide put out. It's a publication under your Federal Continuity Directive 1 and 2. January the 15th. Reconstitution of the executive branch. Imagine that. So back here we have a Federal Mission Resilience Strategy, a continuity of operations of the executive branch. And now, January the 15th, just a few weeks after that would have been Reconstitution of the executive branch. And what does it tell you? It says in 2-3 of that publication, 2-3 says, when the new seat of government cannot be established in Washington, D.C., Congress in their enumerated powers would get with the states to reestablish a new seat of government. You know what a seat is? A county seat? You know what they call those? Courthouses. Seat. So a new seat. Your capital. State capital. Your state seat is your capital. So your federal seat would be the what? The capital. Once again, joint publication that allows the military and civil operations to work together. Tells you right here, per the Posse Comitatus Act and the Department of Defense regulations, the United States is generally prohibited from employing Title 10 DoD forces to provide direct military involvement to enforce the law of the U.S. unless expressly authorized by the Constitution and Congress. Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550 is the last amended section to, which is your amended Constitution. This is what's been amended through the years. Title 50 is War and National Defense. Chapter 33 is your War Powers Resolution Act of 1973, which amended the War Powers Act of 1941 and the Second War Powers Act of 1942. That's what it amended those. So, and it gives the president the authority via national emergencies to use the military. Well, guess what? If Congress didn't want the president to use national emergencies, guess whose problem that is? The Congress's. Why did they pass that? See, this is where people need to understand that if you don't want something in law, and then when it gets interpreted a certain way by a certain majority, and that majority says, well, we interpret it this way, and all of you crying libtards over there, you're just going to have to deal with it, buttercup, suck it up. That's why it pays to know the laws and orders, but it also pays to be we the people, we're the government. If we don't want something in law, and if we don't want it interpreted a certain way, that's why you always have to know what's going on, always be vocal, but always know what's going on. Or your government gets hijacked like it was the last 150 years under the corporation, and then what happens? This. So again, your SAM call signs, you want proof. People say, I need proof. Yeah, proof. Your SAM call signs, Special Air Mission. The only ones who've been flying with it, Department of Defense. That came with Executive Order 13919. All right, the DOD, because Secretary of Defense became equal. President Trump put a new Secretary of Defense in after he lost the 2020 election? Yeah. No. This has all been an operation to drain the swamp. Don't chant drain the swamp if you don't want the swamp drained. That's what you've been watching, is the swamp being drained everywhere from top to bottom, effectively and efficiently. That's why I find it funny that so many podcasters are butchering and twisting stuff, And then I find it kind of humorous that people claiming to be patriots are all upset and distraught and nervous and confused. You're watching the swamp being drained right in front of you. Yeah, there's going to be people who look like, when you call somebody out, or they get caught and you catch them, like I've caught a few people trying to steal from me. I've caught people. You know what they do? They talk more trash when they're walking away. Because if you're the one that goes, you know what, I'm not going to beat you, I'm just going to catch you and expose you to the people, that's not actually whooping their butt or anything like that, where it's like, they can't talk or something. No, what do? They get caught, they get humiliated, but when they're walking away, the more they walk away, the bigger their mouth gets. That's what people do. So you're seeing that the SEC commissioner who just he resigned, right? Because he was going to get fired anyway. But he resigned. What did he do? Oh, we don't need to be doing this, that, and that. Bye. Bye, Felicia. Get your ass out of here. Bye. Right? They talk more trash when they're walking away. But when they're in front of you, and they're right there in front of you, they don't say a thing. That's what happens. So a lot of people are still following that rhetoric, and you're following that versus seeing how awesome this is. Let them talk. Let them be all whatever. Let them act like an idiot. They got their ass beat. If they can't take it like a champ, take it on the chin like they're supposed to, let them show their true colors, because that's why they're leaving in the first place. That's why they got caught. That's why they got humiliated. That's why they're being removed. That's why they were asked to resign, because they may not be a criminal, but they're saying, hey, you're just no good. You need to go ahead and resign, or I'm going to do it for you. All right? So that's what you're seeing right now. You're seeing all these podcasters who didn't know what's going on. You're seeing all their true colors come out. Now they're starting to say, oh, this. Now you got some out there who've been patriots now. They're saying, oh, I think Trump is part of the deep state. What? What in the world? Get out of here. So they're showing it. When you hear stuff like this and you hear, the military is being weaponized to go against the people. Oh, they're not. President Trump's made proclamations. You don't know what's in place way back here. This is an operation. Once again, it started way back here, long before, right in this crease is where it started. When you didn't know anything about anything. This is where it started, in this crease back here. They didn't just go, we got in. Let's devise a plan. No, it didn't work like that. Sorry. The military's been in control the whole time. The military walking down behind President Trump, January the 20th, 2017. Military intelligence, judge advocate generals. Guess what commissioned officer was present for President Trump for the firing of the cannons, the 4 cannons for January the 20th, 2017, Military intelligence. All along the way, the fake soldiers for Joe, the only thing that's been real, insignia on them. Military intelligence, judge advocate general, civil affairs, and psychological operations. Oh, a PSYOP. Oh, imagine that. Whoa. Yes, the only 3 insignia that's been consistent the whole time around Joe, even though the regulation uniforms were not regulation, they were not regulation, nothing was regulation. The only thing consistent was the insignia that you're watching, a special operation, military intelligence, judge advocate general, civil affairs, and psychological operations. Those two, they're together. It sounds like it's 4, but it's only 3. Civil affairs and psychological operations are together. All right. So that's been consistent since those soldiers. You never saw that before in the history of inaugurations. These military officers walked down behind President Trump. The minute he's saying we're taking the power out of D.C. and giving it back to you, the people, those insignia standing there, military intelligence, judge advocate generals. That's been consistent every single day. They've shown a soldier somewhere around President Trump and or quote unquote Joe. That means you're watching an operation. That's consistent. Those are not your typical soldiers that are around a president. Not when they're a visual president. You have your Marine Corps sentries. All right, the Marine Corps get that special duty. It ain't judge advocate general and military intelligence insignia around the president. So your National Guard and your reserves have been active daily. So here's your Title 10 again. And people got mad at me. Bravo. You're mad because you don't know. You're mad because you're ignorant. You're mad because you're uneducated. You're mad because you need to be educated. Get mad. If whatever it takes to get your attention, get mad. Get your panties in a wad. That's what we're here for. All right? If you don't need your panties in a wad, you don't need to get mad, and you just want to be educated, great. You're in the right spot. But also for those that need to get mad, what happened in North Carolina, the storms, what happened in California, all right? People allow your emotions and your feelings to stand in the way of logic, but also special operations. All right? Just because death's involved, a lot of people want to get mad about that. I can't believe you, Derek Jonhson. People are dying right now. People die every day. Get over it. All right? It's one thing you learn in the military. You learn to cope with death because it surrounds you all the time. You got to learn to cope with it. It's part of life, in case you haven't noticed. You might want to check out this Hank Williams song that says, "I'll never get out of this world alive." You might want to go listen to that. All right? Title 10 is presidential. It's that simple. Title 10 is presidential. What is Title 10 doing in North Carolina? What's the Department of Defense doing activated in North Carolina? Why can't the National Guard handle that? That's what they do. That's what the National Guard is for, by the way. Why was Title 10 invoked? California, what's the Navy doing? What is the United States Navy doing? Running missions in California. Why? That's Title 10. Department of Defense, Title 10. You see it right here, per the Posse Comitatus Act and DOD regulations, Department of Defense. Title 10 says it right here, from employee in Title 10. The only person who can do that is the president. The only Title 10 orders that have been invoked in recent, again, March 27, 2020, Executive Order 13912, invoked Title 10, Section 12302, and over here, Executive Order 13919 that invoked Title 10, Section 12304. Those are the only ones that's been invoked. President Trump, that made him a wartime president because there were already wartime orders put in place. You got to know the chronological order again. You can't just cherry pick. You got to know the whole bigger picture. What's the Navy doing operating in California? Why wasn't it the National Guard? All they had to do, get a National Guard from Arizona, National Guard from Nevada, National Guard from Oregon, National Guard from Washington, Idaho, however far they need to keep going. Adjutant Generals, why is the Department of Defense in action? If they needed all 50 states from National Guards, why did they go to Title 10? Why? When the only orders in place are from President Trump. Explain that. Those orders don't carry over. Anybody who says that, they're a damn fool. I don't care how big, I don't care if they were the highest ranking military officer possible. They're a damn fool. That's not how it works. We have the National Guard for a reason, and then we have, once again, it says right here that it's generally prohibited from employing Title 10 unless authorized by the Constitution or Congress. You have authorization orders in place, Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. That's how it works. That's how it works. The Texas border is your other big visual. President Trump standing there with the Adjutant General. If President Trump was a former president, again, he'd be violating his own Executive Order 13848, which is the executive order with the national emergency for election interference. If he was standing at the border, it don't matter how dumb, incompetent, idiot, whatever you think Joe Biden is, if he was real, this is all hypothetical because he ain't and he wasn't president by laws and orders, but if the people thought that Joe was real, if President Trump was a former president, him standing at the border February 29th, 2024, with the governor of Texas and the adjutant general, the commanding officer of all your armed forces of Texas, if President Trump was a former president, that would have been a violation of his own executive order. That would have been election interference of a sitting president. It's that plain and simple. That was a chain of command rank structure. You do not at ease a former president. When President Trump walked into FOB down there, Forward Operating Base, FOB, what we call it, some short for it, at ease! that was yelled. That means everybody in that building of lower rank goes to at ease when the commander walks in the room. Well, the commander had walked in the room, all right, escorting President Trump. That's what they were at easing for. You don't think that commander hadn't been in and out of that fob all day? He'd already been in that fob. They didn't need to at ease the commander. He'd already been at ease probably somewhere in the wee hours of that morning when he came to duty. That's what understanding and knowing military is all about. Anybody who wants to argue that, they either are military industrial complex if they're a veteran, and or they're a civilian who needs to keep their mouth shut. All right, because that's just basic core understanding of the military. There's no way that that was the first time that that commander had walked in there, that adjutant general. There's no way, because that's his command, that's his post. All right, he walked in, President Trump walked in. That's what the at ease was for. You don't at ease a former president. Plain and simple. The president, a former president, doesn't salute. If President Trump was a former president, that would be a disgrace to every United States veteran, dead and alive. And there would be a ruckus started if the veterans ever caught on to what was going on, if that were the case. It's not the case, though. It's not the case. That was a rank structure. It was a chain of command structure that you witnessed in Texas. The adjutant general definition says he reports to the state chief executive, the governor, unless, oh no, there's the canyon word again, unless the National Guard have been federalized by Title 10. And this was February the 29th, 2024, and the only orders that had invoked Title 10, National Guard Reserve components to active duty, was President Donald John Trump, March 27, 2020, and April 30th, 2020. And there's President Trump with the governor of Texas and the adjutant general, and the definition of adjutant general says, the adjutant general reports to the state chief executive, the governor, unless, and there's a president, a quote-unquote former president standing there. There's the president standing there with the adjutant, unless the National Guard have been federalized by Title 10. Have you ever seen a cowboy hat drop for a mic drop? I mean, you can't get you don't need anything else. And people think you got to reinvent the wheel. Oh, there's got to be more laws and orders out there. There's got to be more out there. There's got to be something. That Derek Jonhson. No, it's plain and simple. There are 2 executive orders that invoke 2 codes from Title 10. There's your joint publication 3-57 that explains why Title 10 can be. Then there's your Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550, the last amended section of your War Powers Act, which is what the president needs. And he invoked 2 codes, and then he also established 11 executive orders with 11 national emergencies. And those national emergencies weren't just little national emergencies, they were big ones. And there was reason with COVID that was used as a biochemical weapon, a retaliation by the deep state in China. President Trump said, I will hold China accountable. All right, the People's Republic of China, remember the Executive Order 13959 with the national emergency, November the 12th, that froze all those assets of people who were funding the Chinese Communist military, the People's Republic of China. COVID was a retaliation by the deep state. It was a biochemical weapon. And then your border invasion, those 2 alone allowed the President Donald John Trump, to suspend the Constitution, writ of habeas corpus. I mean, that's in the Constitution. That's all in the Constitution. All you got to do is type in, let's see here. Let me pull it up. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution states that the writ of habeas corpus cannot be suspended except in cases of rebellion or invasion when public safety requires it. And there's more than enough evidence, proof, as people call it. You shouldn't need proof with military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs. But for people that need proof. And then you have President Trump's quotes and his proclamations. We're going to get rid of ugly buildings. We're going to tear down ugly buildings. We're going to destroy ugly buildings. Well, he didn't tell you what ugly meant in his definition. He don't have to. Because what would it do? If he told you, yeah, we're going to destroy all these places because there's a tunnel underneath it and we got to smoke the rats out, but when we destroy it with fire, guess what can't happen? And so there's certain things, right, that if he told you was going to happen, what would people do? What would Americans do? Either panic and or you'd have your liberals out in the streets protesting something they know nothing about and or getting in the way of the operation. So what do? You say it in a metaphor. You say it in a way that's a proclamation, and then you can go back and say, well, my definition of ugly meant this, but it didn't need to panic you. It didn't need to rile you up in a manner of which you know nothing about. It's real simple. So I'm going to say sayonara right now, and we got tonight, and then we have tomorrow. Nothing is normal right now. Nothing's standard because you're in an operation. I mean, it's going to be like a broken record. This is a whole operation, all of it. Not just this portion. Just because you think the dash is ended tomorrow, the dash part is still part of an operation. All right, the whole thing's an operation. The White House military office proves that. All right, President Trump doesn't have a White House military office. All right, that's searchable. There's a lot of things that prove that. You got to know the chronological order. That's why part 2 of my book, I've written part 2 because I had to keep up from December 2023 to present day. What I did is I took out all the first 15 chapters, 16 chapters of part 1, and then I beefed up. I went back through my phone and went through all of everything that I'd saved from 2017 all the way forward and beefed up the chronological order. There's 104 pages, maybe 107 now. But there's about 104 to 107 pages of nothing but special operations reading and how this would have been pulled off. In a chronological order using special operations, clandestine operations, irregular warfare, regular warfare. The irregular warfare is your clandestine. That's your Title 50. You saw the irregular word in the Title 50 clause from 1550, regular and irregular forces. So your regular military and your irregular forces are being used. That all ties in. It's a pre-order right now, but obviously tomorrow is the big day. I'm going to put whatever's shown that day as the timestamp end of that, and then I'm going to start from January 21st, 2025, and then cover all of to 2028. It'll be a Midnight Rider Part 3. That way everybody has this documented in world history of everything that took place from 2015 all the way to the present day, which will be obviously January the 20th, 2028 when it gets here. We'll have that, and then also we can make sure that your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, the Native American 7 generations, make sure that this don't repeat for our future generations. All right, we should think about them as well. That's what we're supposed to be doing. That's what paying it forward means. That's what passing it down means. All right, and that's one thing Southerners do the best, the most. Not knocking everybody else, but Southerners do that the most. All right, we do. All right, that's why I talk the way I talk. That's why I act the way I act. That's why I think the way I think. It's because all this was put to me by my grandfathers, great uncles, my dad, my uncle, and all the men, their friends that thought the same way. Farmers, hard blue collar workers, a lot of them veterans, some of them weren't, doesn't matter. But the men who built America. That's how we're going to save it, and that's how we're going to preserve it, and that's how we're going to keep it. That's how we're going to sustain. So we'll see you guys soon, and I'll have this up on Rumble here shortly so you can share it with your friends and family. And what do you know? I'm at 2 hours again. I did not go 3 or 4 hours. Hey, I mean, I'm getting better at this. Got to give me some credit here. We'll see y'all soon.